On Christmas Eve, 1945, in the quiet coal mining town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, the Sodder family prepared to celebrate the holiday with laughter, warmth, and the innocent joy of 10 children gathered around their parents' modest home. Unaware that within hours, tragedy and mystery would forever alter the course of their lives, birthing one of America's most chilling, unsolved enigmas, the disappearance of the Sodder children. But to truly understand the gravity of what happened that night, we must begin not with the fire itself, but with the unsettling details, strange events, and eerie warnings that seemed to foreshadow the disaster, painting a picture of a family unknowingly ensnared in forces far beyond their control. And as you listen to this story, ask yourself, was this truly an accident of fate, or a calculated abduction hidden beneath the flames of a midnight inferno? George and Jennie Sodder were Italian immigrants who had built a new life in America, raising 10 children with discipline, faith, and the kind of resilience that immigrants often carried with them. Yet their lives were not free from shadows. George, a fiercely independent man, had strong opinions about politics and was openly critical of Mussolini, an unpopular stance among certain members of the local Italian community. And this boldness would soon make him enemies, ones who might have been more dangerous than he realized. In the days leading up to Christmas 1945, ominous signs began to surface. A mysterious stranger appeared at the Sodder home, offering life insurance, but when George refused, the man left with a chilling warning. Your house will go up in smoke, and your children will be destroyed because of your criticism of Mussolini. Soon after, another man appeared, pretending to be looking for work, wandering suspiciously around the property, even commenting on the fuse boxes outside the Sodder home as if testing their vulnerability. Jennie herself began to notice strange phone calls and a sense of being watched, though she dismissed these feelings as paranoia, not knowing how prophetic they would become. On Christmas Eve, the Sodder home was filled with cheer. The children, excited for the holiday, begged to stay up late, and Jennie, exhausted but indulgent, allowed them, while she and George retired early, leaving the children awake in the living room. Lights glowing, stockings hung, the warmth of family surrounding them. But shortly after midnight, the first signs of horror began to unfold. Jennie awoke to the sound of the phone ringing, a call she answered only to hear a strange female voice asking for someone Jennie did not know, followed by eerie laughter and clinking glasses in the background, the call abruptly ending, leaving Jennie unsettled. Returning to bed, she noticed the lights were still on and the curtains open. Unusual since the children were usually responsible about such things, and though she scolded herself for worrying, she felt an uneasy chill as she drifted back to sleep. Within an hour, she was startled awake again, this time by a loud thud on the roof, followed by a rolling noise. But when silence returned, she convinced herself it was nothing, just debris or perhaps snow, never realizing that what she had heard might have been the device that started the fire. At 1:30 a.m., the Sodder home erupted in flames, smoke filling the rooms, and chaos consuming the once peaceful household. Jennie and George rushed to gather as many children as they could, ushering them out of the inferno. But when the family regrouped outside in the bitter cold, they realized with horror that 5 of their children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jennie, and Betty, were still trapped inside, their screams swallowed by the roaring blaze. George, frantic and desperate, tried everything to save them. He attempted to reach a ladder always kept at the side of the house, only to find it missing. He ran to his trucks, intending to drive them close to the house and climb atop them. But both trucks, which had worked perfectly the day before, refused to start as though sabotaged. Neighbors who rushed to help found themselves helpless as the phone lines had been mysteriously cut, delaying the fire department for precious hours. And by the time firefighters arrived at dawn, the house had already been reduced to smoldering ashes. But it was not just the fire that made this tragedy infamous. It was the aftermath, for when the ashes cooled and investigators searched for remains, no bones were found, not even fragments, an impossibility since experts later confirmed that bones would survive a fire of that intensity. Even more suspicious, small traces of evidence began to surface, suggesting not that the children had perished, but that they had been taken. Witnesses came forward, claiming to have seen the children alive after the fire. One woman reported seeing them in a passing car during the blaze. Another swore she watched them being loaded into a truck, and yet another said she saw them at a diner the following morning, accompanied by adults who prevented them from speaking. Even a hotel clerk later recalled seeing 4 of the children with 2 men and 2 women of Italian appearance, adding to the eerie suspicion that this was no mere accident. George and Jennie refused to believe their children had died in that fire. Their instincts told them otherwise, and so they began a lifelong quest for truth, battling skepticism, ridicule, and official indifference, clinging to the hope that somewhere their children were alive. They planted a massive billboard along Route 16, a haunting image of their 5 missing children with a plea for information. A billboard that stood for decades as both a monument to their grief and a challenge to the silence of those who might know the truth. And as investigators delved deeper, the case grew darker. The missing ladder was later found tossed down an embankment far from the house. A witness admitted to cutting the Sodders' phone lines, but claimed it was an accident while attempting to sever power lines. Though this explanation rang hollow, strange photographs and letters trickled in over the years, including one sent to the Sodders in the 1960s showing a man in his 20s who bore an uncanny resemblance to their missing son, Louis, with cryptic handwriting on the back that read, "I love Brother Frankie. Illo boys." A 90132 or 35. This letter, arriving without explanation, reignited the family's desperate belief that their children had been kidnapped and possibly trafficked by a group with powerful connections, silencing those who tried to dig too deeply. Yet despite countless investigations, private detectives, and years of searching, the mystery of the Sodder children remained locked in shadows. The official stance was that they perished in the fire, but for George and Jennie, and for many who have studied the case, too many anomalies, too many unanswered questions, and too many whispered sightings suggest otherwise, that the children were taken, hidden, perhaps forced into new lives against their will, their fate sealed not by fire, but by conspiracy. And so, as the story of the Sodder children lingers like smoke from a long-dead fire, one cannot help but wonder, what really happened that Christmas Eve? Were 5 young lives stolen in a cruel act of vengeance, their disappearance masked by flames? Or is there still somewhere, buried in forgotten records or unspoken memories, the truth waiting to be uncovered? This is only the beginning of their tale. For Part 2, we'll peel back deeper layers of theories, evidence, and chilling possibilities that continue to haunt America's darkest Christmas mystery.